back, folks. This is Market Fire Live. If you're aware, our last episode, unfortunately, there was some technical difficulties. I think it was a demon. Big Man doesn't necessarily agree.
Okay, first of all, the problem was Danny's voice was not, couldn't be heard very well or couldn't be heard at all. So probably best show ever. Danny's voice.
Well, let's just put it this way. Here are your options, Big Man. Either it was a demon or it was racism.
Oh, is that what it was? Was that what it was? Well,
Hey.
you should feel better because at this point we've tested it. Your voice is going out. My voice is going out. The music played. And we're all good. So let's go.
All right. Hey, before we get started here, I just wanted to tell you something. So I was just thinking about, I got to leave this country. They're taking too much of my money in taxes. And so
Of course.
I was doing a Zoom interview believe it or not, with Australia. And the Australian, border guards or whoever I'm talking to over there, their INS is like, sir,
they only have shores. There's no border guards in Australia. There's no border in Australia. But all right,
it's
Danny,
an
go
island.
ahead.
I'm just saying, so the guy goes, do you have a criminal background? And I was like, no, is that still required? So
and that's funny because Australia was a penal colony,
Yeah.
from Great Britain. Yes.
penal. That's funnier than being a penal colony. Oh man. So let's just put it this way. I don't think I'm going to be Australian anytime soon.
So
But,
was America, by the way. All right, you were surprised how much in history the UK just kind of shipped out all of its prisoners and other religions, and
I'm
just
starting to think they were onto something.
just put them on a boat.
This is Market Fire Live. We are a business podcast. We're going to talk about business news as we do every week when somebody's schedule permits.
Some of us are,
right.
have things to do, but that's all right.
Let's just jump into it. Let's skip running these stories down because we're going to talk about them anyway.
Mhm.
All right. So this first one, Amazon.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, every time I read a story about a new business Amazon is getting into, all I can think is, you're tempting fate, pal. Because sooner than later, the SEC is going to go, no, well, not security, Federal Trade. Federal Trade's going to come down on you, and they're going to say, you're a monopoly now.
Yeah, the antitrust is going to come for you. Yeah.
Antitrust is coming for him. Amazon is going to be offering 9 for Prime members only, which, ladies, I'm a Prime member and an executive member of Costco.
Nice.
How many guys do you know that got them both? I can do both. All right.
There you go.
So they are going to be offering for $9 a month.
Danny has both of those and he's single. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
The way you say it hurts my feelings.
So yes, Amazon is going to be offering 24/7 virtual medical care, which
Right.
if you live in 2023, you've probably done this, right? You make an appointment online. You either just talk to a doctor on the phone in some cases, and in some cases you FaceTime with them or Zoom with them or whatever the software is they're using. Tell them your symptoms and they can prescribe things for you. And Amazon's like, hey, you can do this unlimited. You can do it as often as you need to, 24/7, for $9 a month or $99 a year if you want to pay for the whole year at one time. And if you want to add, I think it's $6 a month. They'll throw in generic medications for like $5 for 30 days, something like that.
Listen, I, as someone who is a critic of the American medical establishment for so many different reasons, this is the sort of competition that the market needs, right?
Sure.
Now,
Well, and because if you look again, if the American medical system has no current competition. Like all of these different companies out there are really only 3 umbrella companies, and they're not competing even though they look like it. There's not, you know what I mean?
And then there was a law passed about 10 years ago called the Affordable Care Act That continued to destroy the competition in the marketplace for several different reasons. Later in the show, we're going to get into this story about the National Realty Association, or Association of Realtors, rather. But as a member of the National Association of Realtors, I looked at their available plans and took my laptop and just tossed it out the window because there's no savings, there's nothing. So right now, I am paying a Lexus payment for healthcare.
Sure. Hey, here's
Yeah,
what I love about this. Amazon, like Dell, like some of these other big companies, they partner with companies, which is what this is, really. It's a company called One Medical.
right.
Um,
Didn't they acquire One Medical? I
they
don't remember.
didn't, and this is the really crazy part. So they're offering, if you have a Prime membership, you can join One Medical, an existing company, for $99 a year, but One Medical exists, but if you go directly to them, it's $199 a year. So they're using someone else's product, someone else has to support, and undercutting them at the same time.
Well, if you're One Medical and you're going, listen, there's a company called Blueberry Pediatrics for people with kids out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's $15 a month, 24 hours a day, and you can talk to a pediatrician. And my neighbor has a couple of snotty little kids, and she says she also happens to be my sister, and those are my nephews. But the point is, like it kind of makes sense. And listen, um, I saw a primary care physician over video chat,
Mm-hmm.
and they did not accurately diagnose my appendicitis. So
Imagine that.
oops on
Imagine
them.
that.
Yeah, but that was in an era when going to the doctor was illegal, basically. But the point is, um, you know, healthcare is a highly regulated industry, highly
Yes.
taxed, highly regulated. There's a great video called "How the Government Solved Healthcare." Sarcastic title. It's on Bitbutter YouTube, the Bitbutter YouTube channel. But it basically describes how the American Medical Association went to the government and said, "We need more laws to prevent to prevent too many doctors from flooding the medical system and reducing prices."
Sure.
So if you want to talk about monopolistic, intentions, or if you want to talk about like trying to actually keep prices high, you want to talk about price fixing.
It's true. They
Yeah,
decided that an MRI is this based on this region and this. Like
yeah,
they have entire flowcharts, people. Like
yeah. And
that.
so like there was a guy who owned a private pharmacy. He went on Rogan, and he was talking about how like no, like once somebody tells me they have a certain kind of health insurance, he's like, my contract with X and YZ group of people legally prohibit me from telling them it is
Mm-hmm.
like $10 copay for $4 worth of drugs. They can just buy
Sure.
it from me direct, and it's $4.
And you're not able to tell them that based on the
No,
contract that you have and the non-disclaimer clause. So look, all of this is essentially, and you go, well, okay, how can Amazon do this for $99 a year or $9 a month? The fact is they're just taking the insurance company out of it.
yeah,
There are
that's it.
so many resources that you're at. No joke. I've had two doctors that I know personally. One of them was my child's pediatrician that have stopped their medical practice, just let it go out of business because they no longer wanted to deal with insurance companies. It was so difficult to be paid because everybody has some kind of insurance for the most part, right? So, and dealing with those insurances and the claims that they automatically, knock off and payments are so far behind. I mean, in some cases, he was getting paid 9 and 12 months after the fact.
Yeah,
After paying someone 40 hours a week, that's their job is to deal with insurance companies and get claims paid by insurance companies and that kind of stuff. All this does is bypass that entirely because, hey, we can get you seen by a doctor.
right. And all of a sudden, when there is no health insurance, uh, the a lot of the laws stop applying because HIPAA says you can't, talk about the whatever with people. and all of a sudden you can because there's no health insurance. So,
well, and this is not a complete replacement, people.
It's
all
not.
of these are, you can't obviously go to an online doctor if you've broken your leg, right? You can't go to an online doctor if you've had a heart attack, right? None of these kind of things.
Or if you have an inflamed appendix, they will not be.
Not much help.
But, add on to this, if you are someone who is interested in alternative healthcare, there's a company called Crowd Health. They're doing a lot of interesting things. They're not currently a sponsor of the show. We are working on it because I like those guys. And look into something called direct primary care. These offices are now popping up all over the country. There's pediatricians, there's adult medicine, and all they do is, and there's a guy up in Oklahoma. I generally don't like to compliment anything happening in Oklahoma. Proud Texan.
That's true. Oklahoma sucks. Go ahead.
And the birds fly upside down there because it's not even worth crapping on that.
That's
state.
right.
But I'm just saying, that they're doing a lot of innovative things in end running the healthcare system. There is an entire surgical facility in Oklahoma right now that lists their prices for every procedure.
Yeah.
And they say you just pay us directly, or you make, maybe they set up a payment plan or something with you. And then you take the bill and you submit it to your insurance. You figure it out with them. Maybe they cover it, maybe they don't. But the interesting thing is, the guys over at Crowd Health, there's an interview with on this podcast called Part of the Problem with Dave Smith. He's a comedian, but he interviews these guys, and it's very interesting what that industry can do. And he goes, I had a client. We have a customer that's in Wisconsin, and we said, hey, the local hospitals aren't rated as well, or as good as this other hospital in. It happened to be the one surgical center in Tulsa, and they said, hey, they're not rated as well. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna fly you and your spouse first class from Milwaukee to Tulsa. We're going to put you up in a 5-star hotel, all of this other stuff. And he said, guess what? It is 60,000 or whatever the number happened to be cheaper to do all of that than to pay to have a surgery done, because when they call up the billing and they go, how much? Can you imagine any industry where you walk into a car dealer and they go, you ask, how much is this pickup truck? And they go, do you have State Farm?
Right.
And do you have State Farm Gold, Silver? Do you have State Farm PPO? Is it an indemnity plan?
And even with all that information, we can't give you an accurate answer, because I went through that 2 years ago when I had to have a surgery, and no one up front could tell me how much it was going to be, because nobody knew how much, because there are 15 different doctors, pay different bills and whatever.
Yeah.
So one of the things that makes One Medical a little different is they're not just online like a lot of them. Like Texas Blue Cross Blue Shield has a version of this kind of thing that's included in their insurance company, because I'm sure it saves them money rather than you go to a physical location. But One Medical does have physical locations in Atlanta, Austin, Boston, Cape Cod, Charlotte, Chicago, Columbus, Connecticut, DC, DFW, Denver, Houston, Los Angeles, Miami, Milwaukee, New York, Orange County, Phoenix, Portland, Raleigh, San Diego, Seattle, San Francisco, Triad, and Tucson. Now, if you live in one of those, you obviously, and there's actually 2 locations here in Austin, I know because I looked it up. So if you did need to go see a physical doctor, you could in those cities, and they're looking to partner with more. So that is a way big advantage over some of the others that are only virtual. Now, I will say that now offices are a little different, but most of these virtual, and nothing I could find on this particular one, a lot of these online doctors cannot prescribe control medications.
Yeah.
Pain meds, certain anxiety meds, whatever.
So if you were thinking you're going to get a fentanyl prescription and go, you have yourself a party.
You're not getting Vicodin from any of these doctors, right? You know what I mean?
The worst, because that's all I wanted.
Right. So most of these doctors can't do that kind of stuff. But I will tell you, as someone that travels a decent amount, a bit, I wish I would have had this plan, if I was not in Texas, right? Because I have Texas Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever. I would gladly pay $9 to Amazon to get some nausea medication, because I'm in Colorado and you know what I mean, doubled over for 2 or 3 days. I would gladly pay $9. to see a doctor.
I think you were doubled over for different reasons, but
probably
we'll
so. Well, yeah, especially in Denver. You know, you kind of
right.
No, that's San Francisco. Anyway, get out of here.
Right. So, should we jump into this next one?
We can.
All right. Our good friend, who we got him into podcasting.
Sure.
Our buddy Joe Rogan. His deal at Spotify is coming to a close. Now, let me tell you something. We all know the speculation about Joe Rogan's deal with Spotify being $200+ million or something ridiculous like that.
Sure.
And when he signed the deal, the speculation is instead of paying taxes in Los Angeles, he ran away to Austin. Here's the thing. He ran away to Austin and made it awesome. Okay?
He did.
And the funny thing is, I'm finding out that a lot of the comedians that he attracted to Austin, as much as the speculation was that, hey, he's inviting a bunch of lefty weirdos, they all turned out not to be like that.
No.
Which is hilarious.
That is.
Which is like, and his whole thing was, we need to get out of Los Angeles so that comedy is no longer attached to Hollyweird.
Right.
And so he gets this huge deal from Spotify. When the deal is set to begin, he is no longer a resident of California or Los Angeles County. He is a resident of the beautiful Republic of Texas, soon to be a country, gets out of paying probably $1 bajillion in taxes, and buys a $14 million house somewhere. I'm assuming it's out in Westlake. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it is. I'm not a guy who's trying to look up another guy's address because that's a little too month of July for me, if you know what I'm saying. But his deal is set to expire.
Well, he did open up the comedy store he wanted to here in Austin, right? He wanted to open a comedy club. It's called the Comedy Mothership, but he wanted to open up a comedy club where, you know, he felt like people could be treated differently as comedians and stuff like that. He's done that. It is highly successful. It is jam-packed in there every weekend. You have some of the biggest stars and some of the no names, and they have some of the things that they do to get new comedians introduced. They have this segment where they bring up a brand new comedian that you have never heard of in your entire life, and they just give them a subject matter, and they have to tell jokes about it for like 2 minutes. Yeah. And then this panel of, you know what I mean, judges, which is big name comedians, are like, hey, you did a really good job at this, and this. Yeah. You know, but
so there's stand up on the spot, and then there's also Kill Tony, which is hilarious, by the way. Kill Tony's hilarious. And so I think you're talking about Kill Tony, and the clips of, you know, Ron White doing Kill Tony is hilarious.
So good.
And these comedians who don't know anything about, they're first time comedians, they just come out there, and some of them just knock it out of the park. It's all very
platform
funny.
Is what he wanted to create. That was his whole point, right? So and he's done it successfully. He wanted to create
those opportunities for up-and-coming comedians, and I think he did it successfully. And I think Austin is going to be increasingly, in the next 3 years, is actually going to become more affordable, not less affordable.
Yes, I agree with that.
We'll get into that.
But I don't know that Spotify made their $200 million off of Joe Rogan,
they didn't make $8 off of Joe Rogan. But here's the thing:
he definitely he took the let's say he got the longer side of the stick. I'm thinking in that particular case.
So here's what I think. I think that, you know, they brought Joe Rogan on, and I think it was probably a bigger problem for them than for him, right?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And here's what I mean by that: they paid him $200 million, and then in the middle of the panini. And Joe Rogan had certain opinions on the panini, and that ended up being a problem for them, probably. And then Joe Rogan was having certain types of people on to talk about the panini, and then Joe Rogan was, you know, laughing at comedians that, you know, various types of people at the inside of Spotify were like, "This is sad. He is making fun of us." Or whatever, I don't know.
They bought a product that they couldn't control, and they thought at the time when they bought it, it doesn't matter. That's what makes it popular. And then some things got really divisive really quick.
Which is really unfortunate for all of society. So I think that here's the first thing I think. I don't think they renew Joe Rogan at this rate, at this price.
I don't think they renew him at all. I don't think he'll stay. I think he
Right.
wants his freedom of. I think he wants his freedom back of where he wants to go when he wants to go.
Yeah, and so my belief, and here's what my belief is. I think this show, the biggest problem with this show, the Market Fire Live, the biggest problem is that we aren't making enough predictions. Here's a prediction for you. I think Joe Rogan, now that he's kind of settled into what it looks like to own a club, and he's traditionally been a guy who runs his operation pretty lean. I think he has like 4 security guys at his facility in Austin. He has young Jamie, and I think that's it. I think it's just him, young Jamie, and a bunch of security guys who are probably just a bunch of dudes who are like, let's eat elk and shoot arrows at Cybertrucks, and they're probably just good dudes that he likes. So I think that's and starting Comedy Mothership required him to bring in other people, and he realized, okay, I can live with it. And he's starting to realize, man, let's eat elk and I've attracted all these comedians to Austin, and they're probably just I've created this club that he likes. Why shouldn't I create my own, network or what have you?
He definitely could. He could run it through a website, like, again, not to tie the two together, but that's what Alex Jones ended up doing, right? Is run it through his own type of media, his own website, essentially.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Mike Lindell has done that with his Freedom TV network or whatever it is.
No one's ever seen anything he's ever done.
I'm just saying, things like that out there exist.
And let me tell you something. Don't call Mike Lindell's pillows lumpy. There is a hilarious clip of Mike Lindell in a deposition
losing his shit
because the attorney says you're lumpy pillows.
Yeah.
Now, I've purchased a My Pillow, and I understand the characterization of lumpy, but
Anyway, point is it's Frank's free speech. That's what it is. Anyway, the point is, there are people out there doing it. I don't know that a person like Joe Rogan, I mean, he definitely could. The audience would follow him if he did.
And so that's where, here's what I think actually does end up happening. There was a beef between, at some point there was Spotify or somebody did something that someone didn't like. And the folks over at Rumble said, hey, we'll offer you an unrestricted blah, blah, blah for $100. Just $100 piece. Here you go. Here's $100 million. What's Joe Rogan going to do? Like, how many Camaros does this guy get? Like, he's not, like, But the point is, I look at him and I go, he's a guy who likes to make money. I don't think he's opposed to making money. But I don't think this guy has greater financial ambitions than what he's achieved at this point.
I think he's happy. He's already got FU money, and he doesn't need Jeff Bezos money or Elon Musk money. He's not going to do any of those things.
Because he's already, like, whatever he wants in life, somebody will give it to him for free because they just want to say, we did X, Y, and Z for Joe Rogan.
Sure.
Okay? And I think, my view tends to be that Joe Rogan, but what he does want to do, and which is the most commendable thing about Joe Rogan, is he wants to build up other comedians.
Correct.
And I love that about Joe Rogan. So,
and he wants to talk about things he finds interesting. He finds interesting is the key point there. You may or may not, but he finds.
So the whole point this podcast exists is because Big Man said, let's start a political podcast because Danny Deals, you have some weird political ideas.
Yeah.
And I said, but I don't care that much about being political. I want to talk about why is Amazon getting into healthcare? You sell books. Okay. So here's what I think happens. I think Rogan goes to a Rumble, or this is the dark horse candidate, and this is my actual bet, is that he goes to his buddy Elon Musk's, who we're going to talk about later in the show. And he goes, hey, bud, you're already, like, the numbers that Tucker Carlson is putting up on X.com is silly. These are silly numbers.
Because they're fake. They can't be real. the numbers that they're using on the Tucker Carlson X show or whatever, those can't be real. I mean, they just, everything on the internet is so fake. And look, again, if you watch any show, whether it's a famous show, a semi-famous show, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Rumble or whatever, there's no way to know how many of these stats are real, right? Like, you have some of these shows that say that they have millions of views within 2 or 3 days or whatever, and I'm like, okay, the world population is not watching your show every day. Okay,
Yeah,
that
so
it's you're talking about something that has to be taken with a grain of salt.
yeah, fair enough. But here's all I'm saying: the publicly available numbers are staggering. Okay, so I'm simply saying my view is that there is a synergy. Okay, there is a synergy between Joe Rogan's goals as a podcaster comedian and the goals of our good friend Elon Musk's, who wants to grow because he, listen, if you he took a $44 million investment and turned it into $4 billion, maybe. Who knows what it's actually worth? And he has openly stated he's, rebranding it into being a much different platform than what he purchased. And I think if all he does is add this component of like, hey, listen, when I open up my phone to listen to Joe Rogan, I don't care if it's on Spotify or X
Right.
or YouTube or whatever. I turn off the screen and, I drive to Austin and back from North Texas
Right.
before the episode's even over. I mean, dude, this freaking Jordan Peterson episode is 5 hours.
Right.
Oh, that's a transcontinental flight.
That's what I'm
But
saying. He definitely enjoys talking about the things that he enjoys talking about. Like,
right,
that's just. You
doesn't
don't think
hurt
YouTube would, like, at least put their names out? I mean, I know obviously he has issues
Nope.
with some of YouTube stuff, but YouTube, obviously, Google could lay out more money than anybody else. I mean, they really could.
Yeah, and Google and YouTube have taken a step back from content curation and content investing into content because they at the beginning of YouTube Red, it just sounded too adult, so they switched it to YouTube Premium. They were investing heavily into content. They actually made a really good show. I forget what it was called, but it was very good. Like Cobra Kai was actually funded and purchased by YouTube before it went to Netflix. So what I think is going to happen here is he's going to go to his buddy Elon and he's going to say, "Hey, I look at what I did for Spotify. Let's you and I work together here, and let me tell you why. Theo Vaughn is having a moment. He's a comedian. He's popping. He had on Roseanne Barr. And Roseanne Barr is an individual of Jewish descent, and she made a joke that was deemed anti-Semitic. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just saying she was clearly being sarcastic. And YouTube yanked his show. A couple other platforms yanked the episode. He took the episode, uploaded it to X. Once 48 million views or something like that, according to their data. Who knows if it's true or not? So the point is, Elon Musk after that came out and said, comedy is free or whatever, free speech on this platform.
Sure.
Tweeted out the episode of Theo Vaughn and Roseanne Barr, which is very interesting. So I think he cuts a deal with X. I don't know what the deal looks like. All they have to do is take existing technology of, here's an audio RSS feed, and we just add a tab to Twitter or X, and now X has podcasting on it, and it's not hard to do.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to do.
No, it's not. And you have a valid point. I just, again, I'm not a believer in what, and we're going to have more stories on Elon Musk in a little bit. I'm just not, I'm not on the bandwagon of what Elon Musk's X will be in the future. I just don't know that Twitter, what was Twitter, now X, is a very useful tool in its simplicity. I think that's why it's outlasted all of these other social media platforms. It is beautiful in its simplicity, and the more complex you make it, the less of that beauty you're maintaining.
I agree with that on its face, and I simply add, but no one ever made a penny from Twitter.
Correct.
Twitter
It
never
wasn't
made,
set up to be a money
and that
making
was
machine.
and that was stupid. That is the Silicon Valley mentality of like, we're just gonna build this really cool thing, and then we're gonna sell user data.
Right.
And so, and we'll get into why Elon Musk is probably right about a lot of things, but so I'm just saying, like, Elon wants to add X.ai, or sorry, X.com. He's just going to add a tab. And then guess what? Elon had one big problem, which was bringing advertisers back to his platform. And let me tell you, where Joe Rogan, where can comedy podcasts go, advertisers follow.
Sure.
So I think that is the synergy. That is the thing that, Elon Musk says this is going to be a free speech platform and humor can have a home here, right? And jokes are legal on Twitter.
Yeah.
That when you bring Joe Rogan, you bring the JRE, the Joe Rogan, the
Experience.
JREU, the Joe Rogan Experience universe.
Sure.
And you bring those comedians that have trouble monetizing on other platforms like Your Mom's House because they tell jokes that are so wild.
Sure.
And so I think that's where they end up having a home. But let's jump into this next story, which I love. I love it.
They need to combine Your Mom's House, the Joe Rogan Experience, all of the Your Mom's House podcasts, which there's got to be 10 or 12 of them at this point.
Something like that, yeah.
With all the different shows on their network that they've created very successfully, by the way. Your Mom's House, We Might Be Drunk, and Joe Rogan Experience, all on the same network. I would definitely watch.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is I think X can do for podcasting what Spotify did for music, right?
They could.
Spotify was like audio; it's all the same. But at the end
If
of the
they
day,
were willing to say, we're good with whatever. Like, if they were just like, hey, whatever it is you're about to do, say, or whatever,
right,
as long as it's in the realm of comedy, right?
Right.
We're good.
And the reason I think that he can do it better than other people is because Rumble still has a certain kind of reputation, right?
Sure.
And so I just think that X, as opposed to a Rumble, has way bigger reach. It's way more global. So I just think that, and he's a billionaire. So I think that he wants to foster a certain kind of thing. And so you got two guys who are past caring about money because they have so much money. So they're past caring about money, who actually just want to build something for the people. Sounds like communism, kind of is. But they want to build something for
they
the
still
culture.
charge for it. So
yeah.
they still charge for it.
As the urban youth might say, doing it for the culture or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When you combine all of those factors, I do see that that's going to be. So that's my prediction. When this contract ends, Q1 2024, the podcast moves to X. And guess what happens as a result of the podcast moving to X? A cavalcade of other podcasts move to X. They build in a platform that apes all the Patreon, because Patreon also has a reputation of censorship.
Sure.
Right? It's supposed to be it's supposed to be the opposite of censoring. So, and guess what? It's all gonna be backed by Dogecoin. So we're gonna be back, baby.
No. Anyway, go to the next story.
All right. Our good friend Adam Neumann of WeWork fame.
Yeah.
This is another story just for me to predict something. So currently our good friends over at WeWork are going through a bankruptcy.
Imagine that.
Which when I initially sent this story to Big Man, I think in my text I was like, they didn't already go bankrupt?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So my favorite thing about the story is actually that during the Panini, they did a reverse merger and went public via SPAC, just so that the market was going to be the bag holder, because everyone was like, it's over for WeWork. It's over, right?
Yep.
Here's what's interesting. They're going to go bankrupt, and even with the stock, even going bankrupt, Adam Neumann, the Cuckoo Kachu founder, all right, he walked around New York City barefoot. Put him in prison. Release El Chapo. put him in prison. Okay? That's disgusting. Barefoot, New York City, you're going to get all the diseases. Forget about it.
Yeah, definitely.
He's still worth $1.7 billion. So here's what I'm saying. He's going to acquire. This is a prediction. My guess is he is going to buy WeWork out of bankruptcy. He started a new startup called Flow and then proceeded to raise the largest round of funding that Andreessen Horowitz ever stroked a check for $365 million for basically what's like, here's the business. Here's what Flow is. You're going to go rent an apartment from Adam Newman and you're going to eventually earn maybe some equity. That's like when you go to a grocery store and they're like, we're employee owned. Okay, you're employee owned. So
is this guy some kind of savant salesman? I mean, do you just get in a room with him and you want to hand over all? Is it a cult? Is it like what is it?
Here's the thing. There's speculation that Jared Leto of 60 Seconds to Mars or whatever the band is runs a cult. I think Adam Newman probably does run a cult. I'm not saying he does. I'm just saying, here's all I'm saying. He has convinced more than one billionaire to give him money.
Yes.
And listen, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said my greatest regret in life was that I was raised very traditionally with morals, and so I just never got around to scamming people.
Right.
So I'm just a fan of people who scam.
This guy's done it like 3 times, and they never take his money. He gets his money out in the early days when he goes public or whatever, you know what I mean, with the investors and everything, pays himself a salary with investors' money and all this kind of stuff. He's made himself a billionaire, and they never come for his money.
Okay, here's my favorite part. While he was taking money from Masayoshi Son, Japan's greatest investor, while he was taking billions of dollars from him to build a business. And here's the basic concept of WeWork. They take a long-term liability, which is a rental lease, and then they give it to the marketplace as a short-term liability. That's
it.
That's designed to fail. Okay.
Yes. Because it's highly dependent on the market, and if the market falls apart, the entire business falls apart.
While he's doing that, he is going around buying commercial buildings with his earnings from WeWork.
Yes.
And then leasing the buildings to the business. Alley-oop. Give this guy the Nobel Prize in economics.
Yes.
At the beginning of the great film Wolf of Wall Street, all the Matthew McConaughey's character says to Leonardo DiCaprio's character, he says, the goal, man, used to get their money from their pocket into your pocket. That's it.
That's it.
And if that isn't the most simplistic reduction of market economics, I don't know what else is.
Yeah.
Value. The first lesson, I always say the first lesson in market economics is the value is subjective. The point is that guy had billions of dollars. Clearly, he's not an idiot. He didn't, somehow he has some value. I don't know what it is.
That's what I'm saying. Is this guy just some savant? When you get in a room with him, he's so charismatic, and he's so, because obviously you pick apart any of his plans and they're no-brainer dumb idiot plans. Yes. So what are all these people signing up for? Like what?
So here's the thing. When before he was, broke down, Adam Newman had a plan for something called We Live, which was WeWork's apartment complex, and they actually built one, I believe. And it's basically like a summer camp for nerds. It's like you didn't have any friends growing up, and instead of going to frat parties at college and doing acid with your pals, you were writing code and playing Dungeons and Dragons. and now you're trying to have like a semblance of whatever normalcy. So the point is,
I'm just saying, why can't we do both? That's all I'm saying. Anyway, go ahead.
What I'm saying is, he took that concept
right.
and he just turned it up a little bit and said, "Oh, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give the renters equity." You and I both know when a company says, "Hey, you're going to earn a bunch of stock." Yeah, I know exactly how this goes. I have to be there for 180 days for the stock to vest.
Mm-hmm.
In 90 days, you're going to figure out you don't like me. So the stock ain't going to vest. And then I have to, so there's going to be a bunch of hoops to jump through. But the point is, it's good marketing.
Yep.
If you stay at the apartment for 5 years, when you leave, let's say they're going to be like, "Oh, you now get a piece of your equity back. Here's $75." It's like every class action lawsuit I've ever been a part of.
Sure.
They go, "We won $70 billion for the people. Here's your 88 cents. It's $1.50 to cash it at Walmart." So,
and the law firm that you got 40 billion of it, like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. They got all the money, and then what it breaks down to is that, my prediction is that Adam Newman is just busting out the chops. Like, you got me out of my business. And here's the thing: he's gonna go buy this for this one with his $1.7 billion. He's gonna go to Deutsche Bank, who historically has had problems underwriting deals that they fund. He's going to go to Deutsche, and they're just going to diarrhea money into his mouth, and he is going to regurgitate that capital, and he's going to buy WeWork for pennies on the dollar. And let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, people. That's the American dream. That is the American dream.
He wouldn't be the first to do that scam. He wouldn't be the first to do that scam.
But he's the first to do it at that scale and so publicly. Let me tell you, this is America. You go to a foreign country, you get their investors to give you billions of dollars on a business that is a house of cards that economically does not work, does not make sense, does not pass the smell test. A fifth grader can underwrite the business and go, "That doesn't make any sense." And you turn it into billions of dollars for yourself and your family. This is America, okay? Nowhere else in the world are you walking around barefoot in New York after becoming a billionaire by creating a business that doesn't work.
No.
Okay?
No.
Listen.
I understand. I agree.
We need a month dedicated to Adam Newman Pride. We need parades in every major city celebrating Adam Newman.
This is why Danny can't be trusted, y'all. This is the example.
This is exactly why I can be trusted. Because I'm telling the truth. Value is subjective.
Sure.
Somebody said whatever this ding dong is saying is valuable. I think it's stupid.
See, this is why Danny and I don't get along. It's because Danny loves to say value is subjective, and I say it shouldn't be. That it doesn't. If a idea doesn't make money or doesn't make sense, then it should not be valuable.
Right, and let me tell you why. You're wrong, and I'm right. Should is a communism word. Should it says, well, everyone should have health care, and then we're all living in a camp guarded with armed guards. That's all. I'm just saying it starts, we're all, it shouldn't be that hard.
This is what I have to deal with all the time, folks. This is Danny's brain in a nutshell right here.
It shouldn't be that hard to own a home. That's how the sentence starts. Here's how it ends. We're all forced onto a train.
Yeah,
we don't know where we're going. So I'm just saying. Okay.
That's Danny's brain. This is what I have to deal with all the time, folks. All right, let's skip number 4. Let's go to number 5 and 6. We'll come back to number 4 another time.
All right, sounds good. I love this story. The big man, first time, long time, brought a good story to the table.
Oh my gosh.
The next generation, 70%, 76% of teens don't want to work for you. They want to start a business.
I like it. I
love it. I love it. I love it. I can't wait for these teens to find out how hard it's going to be. Okay.
Well, okay. So look. I love that this is an idea in 76% of teenagers.
Yes.
Now, how do you foster that idea into a reality I think is different than what they think when you're talking about. According to this survey, obviously more people dream of becoming a YouTuber than an astronaut, right?
Right.
Like, and the popularity of social media and what is that created for money making abilities has this whole thought process in their brains. But not everybody can be a professional YouTuber. Not everybody
Right.
can be a professional gamer. Not everybody can be a professional TikToker, or you know what I mean, or whatever.
Right.
So it'll be curious to me how this 76%, because look, I have 3 teenagers. My 3 teenagers have teenage friends. They
Right.
come to my house a lot and play pool and play video games and do a lot of. I
Right.
have that house that a lot of kids come to all the time. Every
That's really
weekend, I'm
cool.
dealing with other people's kids in my house.
Yeah.
Currently, right now, my house is full of teenagers, which is
That's
why
awesome.
I'm in my office and not in there.
Yeah.
But so my point though is they all think that they can be the next ninja on Fortnite, that they can be the
Right.
next, whatever. So I hope that this mentality of entrepreneurship pushes through those obstacles into their 20s, is what I'm saying.
And listen, I will talk as a millennial who at one point gave up on the dream of being an entrepreneur and discovered I didn't have a choice anymore. Okay, I had been out of the traditional workforce for long enough that I didn't have an option. It was I and listen. Here's what I will say: these young people are going to learn a beautiful thing, which is you're going to have to learn how to hustle, and that's
Mm-hmm.
good. That's a good thing. I think that even at some of these large companies where Zoomers and millennials are going to work, I think that a lot of them are like, yeah, like here's something I'm seeing that I love: young people, teenagers going and starting a business and actually making money at it.
Sure.
I have a friend who's old like you, and he has a teenage son, and he graduated high school, and he took his graduation money, and his parents said, "What do you want for graduation?" And he didn't say, "I want to go on a trip." He didn't say a lot of things. He said, "Buy me a pressure washer."
Right.
And so he got a truck and a pressure washer, and he's making a soft six figures. Well, I mean, can you be angry at the kid? Like,
Absolutely
why?
not.
Why
And
is he going to go waste his life becoming a anything at a community? And he's making a soft 60. That's nice.
this is where my inner Danny comes out.
Okay.
My inner Danny, the anarcho-capitalist, craziness comes out. The conspiracy theory, inside this article, of course, because nothing can be just pure, right? This can't just
Right.
be, hey, look, this is a great thing, right? In this
Right.
article, it says earlier this year, the U.S. Surgeon General confirmed to many parents fears with a report warning that social media profoundly profound risk of harm to adolescents and their mental health.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think, and there's another study
Everything
came.
has a possibility of being harmful. Look, they used to say video games in the 80s and the 90s
Yeah.
were, you know what I mean? Too much
So
computer time in the 80s was against your mental health. Well,
yeah.
again, are you saying that this is one of those, again, my inner Danny conspiracy theory comes out? Is this something that's real, or is this the government wanting you to be a drone? They need
Yes.
you to continue to go to work, and they're
So
realizing less and less people want to be that person.
and if you want to dig into some of those conspiracies, here's what I'll tell you: look at some of the founding documents of this country. And one thing that they said was a nation of storekeepers, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what the actual phrasing is. It's old timey phrasing, so I wouldn't know what it is. But it's a nation of business owners. And it used to be in this country that in order to vote, you had to own land because that meant you were invested in the direction of your community. And I think that this is a healthy thing for our country. And here's what else I'm saying: there's different types of entrepreneurship. There's entrepreneurs who are deeply passionate about something and they want
Correct.
to do something so bad, so they do it, and they go, I don't know that I care about money. And that's fine because they're kind of artsy fartsy. And then you have
Sure.
entrepreneurs that are like OnlyFans performers. They're going, I don't actually care what I do. I just want to make money.
Sure.
And, it's the ingenuity. And here's the other thing. We are entering another very dark period for our economy. There is a handful of economic factors that the Zoomers are coming to grips with, not just interest rates, but not just wars, a whole host of other things. The collapse of the US dollar, maybe that's a thing, I don't know. But
Again,
I'm,
I don't go full Danny, but there is
yeah,
a
I know,
little
but
Danny inside me, but yes.
right. And so what I'm driving at when it comes to the story is simply that an attitude of skepticism towards the way things are and the way, as Big Man often refers to them as the old whites. The old whites, and I don't think it's white people. I think boomers lived through the best time, right? They got the best
Sure.
advancements in technology. They got,
The
they
best
could go out.
investment opportunities in both
Yeah,
real estate and the market and everything
yeah,
else. Investment in 401ks before when
right.
they were actually paying, you know what I mean, dividends and
When a 401k actually meant something,
yep.
the boomers, college was cheap, loans were easy to access.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I had a 10%, 13% interest rate on my first house. It was $70,000, pal.
Or
And
30
that's what,
or
yeah.
30,000. Like, yes. Yeah.
And
No,
and
you're
and
right.
I'm and so like when people hate on boomers, there's a certain group of boomers I go, I don't hate on them because they don't know any better, because they are disconnected from reality. Okay, they're plugged into football. They don't care who's running for any
Sure.
office. They just go vote straight. They don't know what's going on. You got
Mm-hmm.
another group of boomers who I can explain the numbers to them, and they go, "Oh yeah, you are screwed, aren't you? Like,
Yeah.
you are going to live a lower standard of living than I did, right? It is harder for you to go out there. Oh yeah, when I was coming out of college, I could get a $30,000 a year job, but an apartment was $400.
Right.
My car note from Honda was $80, and so like it was reasonable for me to save up money and buy a house. And then there's another group of boomers who don't want to hear that maybe they contributed through their promotion of like going to college. They ignored the fact that I know someone whose mother said, why does it matter that going to whatever university costs 80 grand a year? The money shouldn't matter. What did I just say? Communism is should or shouldn't, whatever, is a communism word. No, the math actually matters, right? She
Sure,
wanted to put
but
her
they
kid.
okay, they were lied to in the 80s and 90s when all of this and they decided that universities were just going to make a ton of money and become
Well,
for-profit institutions. But that's getting away from it. Look, this is a
yeah,
positive thing
it is.
in the Gen Z, Gen Z teenagers, right?
Right.
This is a positive thing. It's because here what almost my life would be completely different if I didn't learn, thankfully, knock on wood, in my
Yeah.
20s about entrepreneurship and about the
Right.
different way that entrepreneurs think in the
Yeah.
realm of reality. That was not something taught to me by my parents. It was not something that anyone I knew had, right? Or any of that. I would have never come in contact with this perspective had I not sought it out. And by
Right.
the way, at a lot of personal cost, because anchors love to anchor you down, right?
Right.
Until they see the results. So it's a difficult. So to me, this is a great, great sign out of
Yeah.
a generation that a lot of Gen X and boomers, we pick on the
I'm going to be right
millennials.
back. I'm going to go turn on a light. I'll be right back.
Yep.
1 second. You keep talking.
But they pick on the millennials, right? Like Danny, whatever, because for obvious reasons. And Gen Z, they were afraid Gen Z, okay, what's going to happen as they graduate high school and come into the workforce or whatever. I think entrepreneurship is the way to go. I honestly think it's the future. People do not have to be drones and just go to work to be paid. I think the market will change based on entrepreneurship. If that's one thing I think, again, I'm a capitalist, the market will adapt
Adapt.
itself
Right.
to if nobody wants to work your 9 to 5 anymore, there are contract entrepreneur labor out there that you can find the best of the best to do the project while you need to do it, and then they'll go on to the next company and you'll go on to the next employee that you need without
Right.
all of what they do right now. Right?
And let me just add on to this, like there is an entire industry marketing to young men, boys, teenagers, um people want to call it get rich quick courses or whatever. And here's what I'll say. I've seen a lot of these courses.
Sure.
They are cheaper than going to a semester of college. And the likelihood
And
that
more
you
useful in a
earn,
lot of cases.
that's what I'm saying. I'll give an example. Like, everyone loves to bag on Tai Lopez. Okay. I know more than one person that has earned themselves a living that they could have never imagined. Okay. 250, 300 a year because of one kernel of an idea
Right.
that was in that $60 course that Tai Lopez put out and assaulted all of us with the ads on YouTube before YouTube Premium. And we skipped the ad here in my garage, my Lamborghini. I love books or whatever the heck. The
Mm-hmm.
point is, Tai Lopez, all he did was like, so what these courses do, what the online education industry does, is it reverses the polarity of traditional education.
Right.
You have to seek it out. Like there's no way you're getting a loan. You swipe it on a credit card, whatever. I know enough dudes who like, and then all of a sudden it's not mommy and daddy aren't going to write a check because they're skeptical of it. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to go earn the money digging ditches or working at Whataburger or whatever.
Sure.
And you have to. And here's the thing: it pushes you to make it work. There's plenty of scammers out there, right? There's plenty of scammers. Guess what? Have you ever heard of this thing called UT Austin? Probably a scam. Anything in the UT system, probably a scam. Rice University, probably a scam. I'm just saying, when you look at the cost to results ratio, I'm going to say that if you take one of these scammer courses, Udemy, whatever, you probably are going to learn something that is that's going to directly apply to you making money than sitting in a class about feminist theory and film. Nothing wrong with taking that class if you want to take it, but there's no prerequisite of like, well, I wanted to learn about doing photography so I could do principal photography for a car
Right.
website. But in order to do that, I have to take 4 prerequisites in English.
Right.
So there's none of these. It cuts through the nonsense. And I think that, when we look at it, sure, like, there's Iman Gadzi, which people love talking trash about him. He's still selling a course teaching people how to build um, you know, an agency, and he closed his agency because he's making so much money.
Well, John Maxwell program still exists, and all these different. Look,
Yeah.
it doesn't. The point is anywhere you get a, like you said, a kernel of an insight of knowledge that then leads to your idea or your motivation
Taking
to
action.
change, taking action,
Right.
then good. And whether that's from a university or whether even from a quote unquote scam course that you went to Udemy and you paid $10 for, and it was just motivational BS. There still may be something, a story of that motivation in there that you go, oh, no, that I can use. That one sentence, that 2 sentences.
Right, and it might be that you see somebody doing something, and you, as a business, and you go, "Oh, wait, hold on. Why aren't they doing it this way?"
Absolutely.
And listen, this way, hey, why aren't they cooking? Or why aren't they flame broiling the burgers? Burger King. And then you go, there's a McDonald's and there's a Burger King and a Whataburger and a Jack in the Box. The market grows and it breeds competition, and the market finds a way to accept all this new stuff. I mean, could you imagine explaining to someone 30 years ago that we're going to walk around with a South Korean phone in our pocket?
Right. They would have called you a communist and told
Yeah,
you you're
like
anti-American, and there's no way on God's green earth.
Like the Japanese were the king of electronics in that era.
Right.
And then we just like Sony was making a phone for 8 minutes, and then that was it. Nobody's buying the Sony device. We're all buying. So I'm just saying that it is a positive thing.
Yeah, that 76% could be a huge deal.
And I can't wait for these youngsters to go, hold on a minute. Like, there's a great clip of Dana White talking about, like, yeah, like, you wanted to make your own schedule, so you became an entrepreneur, and now you don't have the life anymore. And listen,
right.
dude, like, there is a part of me that started this journey of entrepreneurship, wanting to do the 5-hour work week and go sit somewhere and not do anything for the rest of my life. And in my 30s, I realized I want the opposite thing. I don't want to have a social life. I don't want to talk to anybody. All I want to do is work, work, work all the time, because everything else is
It's
dumb.
much easier than the rest of life. I'm just telling you. If you do it
like,
right, work is so much easier than the rest of it.
It is so much like those people complaining on Reddit about like some guy wants to come to work instead of being home with his family, so like everyone has to stop doing work from home. It's like, yeah, but do you get why he's doing that? Like, I mean,
has anybody looked into why he's saying it?
Yeah.
All right, let's do our final one, Danny.
All right, we're just gonna check in.
Just check in.
Just checking in on our buddy Elon. Hope he's doing well. I wish him well. I hope Elon's doing well. They are making a biopic of him at A24. A24 is the wrong guy.
Is it a biopic or a biopic? Is it biopic?
Or biopic? I gotta be honest with you. I don't know.
I've always heard it pronounced biopic, but it could be biopic because that sounds much like
a biographical moving picture.
Exactly.
I don't know how you pronounce it. Here's all I know: they're doing it. They're making a movie about Elon Musk, and it's some of it, which I find funny, is that he was having tantrums. He was throwing tantrums at the X headquarters, or at Twitter, formerly known as, or X, formerly known as Twitter, and they were like, I think we have to do a wellness check on Elon, because they were worried about because he's like locked in the office or something. I think that's mostly like, oh, like here's a guy who's actually working, and that was the first time they at Twitter saw somebody.
He had people sleeping in their offices, and look, Elon Musk is obviously a unique guy. I always think it's weird that they make picture or movies about people that are still alive. It's just weird to me.
Weird.
Like
here's what we learned during the writer's strike, which recently ended. They have no ideas, because let me tell you, here's how we know they have no ideas. I didn't even notice. Okay, the writer's strike has been going on for I don't know. You could tell me any number and I believe you. You could be like, the writer's strike has been going on for 2 years. I'd believe you. The writer's strike has been going on for 6 months. I'd believe you. I have no idea.
My wife notices because anytime when you get a writer's strike, you get a lot of reality TV and a lot of game shows. Like that's what they all default to, because they're
but the point, the reason I say that is they're out of ideas. South Park just did this hilarious spoof called the Panderverse. And you just got to go watch it. I was never a South Park person.
Yes.
But I dig it. But
it's on Hulu, I think. Is it Hulu?
I think it's Hobo Max. Or sorry, just Max.
Max. Okay. Anyway, yes, I know what you're talking about. It is hilarious. I forget where it is though.
And it's just really excoriating modern. They don't have anything to write about, so they have to make movies about what is it called, Super Pumped, or whatever. It was about Uber.
Yes. But again, it's weird to me when they make these shows that don't have an ending yet. They don't,
because we don't know how this ends. But this. So there's 2 stories. We're just doing our Elon check-in, and there's 2 stories here. Elon Musk did not want his SpaceX employees to wear safety yellow, which I call that neon green. That is highlighter green. That is neon green to me.
Okay? Right. Yeah.
He didn't want them to wear safety yellow because it hurt him.
He doesn't like bright colors, apparently. So he was telling his employees, the word discouraging employees from wearing the yellow-colored safety clothes because it, quote, he doesn't like bright colors.
Yeah. So I had a teacher in junior high, his social studies teacher. social studies was always my best subject because whatever I had to learn about it, I could learn it in the class. I never had to do the homework. And she hated that neon green color, and she said it screws with my eyes. So you can't use the post-it notes for whatever project we had to do.
Yeah.
I did it. I did it. I did it because you can't tell me something hurts your eyes.
Yes.
And then, like, note got sent home from the teacher. Like, we specifically said not to use this color. Like, and then my dad's like, why did you tell me you could only have this color? And like, I was just like, well, that was just my little middle finger to the system.
Okay,
but here's why I like this.
So
he's openly said. So I'm not saying anything that's a secret here. He's on the spectrum, right?
Definitely, and I've always thought that. Oh, you look at the guy speak at one of his one of his speaking engagements. Anything. He is obviously very intelligent, but on Brilliant. The spectrum. Like there definitely he has things that irritate him and distract him.
And socially, I find something fascinating. We are taught in society that we should be respecting of those who have different abilities, including being on the spectrum. And the lesson I've learned is that only applies if you're broke. Because if you're a billionaire, we'll just talk crap to your face about like somehow the money cured you of your tism. I don't know how that works out, but that's what but we're as long as we're doing our little Elon Musk update, check in on Elon. Elon Musk, who is quoted as saying AI will be the death of human beings.
Okay, hold on. Before we get there, I want to tell people part of this article that said in one trip, SpaceX, which is essentially the city that he bought down on the Gulf Coast, right? Yeah. This little city, and then renamed it. We did a story on it a couple of years ago when he bought it or whatever. Anyway, so he wants his whole city built around what he envisioned SpaceX to eventually be. But during one visit, he complained about the yellow color, the safety color that people were wearing, spent most of his time playing with the novelty flamethrower, SpaceX flamethrower. And while he was there, had a lot of these safety yellow on buildings, sidewalks, and stuff repainted black or blue. Because, again, he didn't want to look at it.
Let me tell you something. It's Boca Chica, Texas. Let me tell you. There is nothing more that I hate than a humble billionaire. I want my billionaires eccentric, okay? I don't want billionaires like the founder of Microsoft who's like, well, we invested a lot of money into. Here's what I wanted a billionaire. I want a billionaire who's so jacked up on peptides and testosterone that he gets a custom yacht built, and it's there. They go, sorry, there's a fjord in Finland, and we can't get it through it. And he goes, oh, just take the whole bridge down and pass my yacht through the bridge, and then I'll pay to rebuild the bridge.
Exactly. I'll make it better. And
what I'm looking for in a billionaire.
Right.
And let me tell you something. There is nothing more fantastic than a guy on the spectrum going, I don't like that color. Repaint everything.
Now. And do it now. While I'm here, I want to see it done before I leave on Monday. Get them out here. You know what I mean?
We are launching rockets into orbit. We are launching satellites into the sky. And he's saying, I don't care if anybody can see you.
I want the yellow gone, and I want it done now. And oh, by the way, where the hell is my flamethrower?
Yes.
Who has my flamethrower? I just envision him in full suit in the middle of a parking lot, just
Let me just say this much. What is the point of becoming a billionaire? What is the point of becoming the richest person in the world, supposedly? Right. We all know that's not true, right? But
let's just say one of the richest people.
Recognized as one of the wealthiest people in the world. If you can't order people around to paint things, buy a city, and then show up to work and be like, I don't feel like working. I want to shoot my flamethrower in the desert. He's shooting dick rockets into the sky.
Exactly. Like,
what are our expectations here?
I agree. So he also launched about a week ago now, right? About a week ago, XAI. Which, as Danny's point is, this is a guy that thinks that AI is one of the worst things humankind can do, is a self-sustaining AI. But in the field that he is, it's almost expected of him to move down this realm.
And you were telling me, and so that means we don't know if it's true or not, because sometimes big man's his reading comprehension. South
hey, just because I'm a Texan, all right, you know.
South of DFW public schools, so that it's a sandbox, that it's not crawling the internet, so it's not self-learning.
Correct. Very much like ChatGPT 4, when it initially came out, you couldn't ask it to find information that it would find on the internet. Now, ChatGPT 4 has moved to access certain portions of the internet. It will now do for you if you would like, and you know how to prompt it to do so. The new XAI is not attached to that kind of information. I don't know that anything with Elon Musk backed will ever be able to access. Being a sandbox, if you don't know that term, just means that it's cut off from everything. It's in its own unique environment and not able to leave that environment, which makes sense, again, with Elon Musk's views. He wants a powerful tool to be able to say, hey, here's a bunch of little dumb tasks, chatbot tasks, these kind of things. We can program it to say and respond to certain things and all these kind of things, but do we want to give it access to the World Wide Web? You know what I mean? And that kind of thing.
So if you're interested in knowing, there's another company competing in the space, someone from our very own city of Austin, Cody Wilson, the creator of the 3D printed Pew Pew. We can't say the other word because it's YouTube.
Right.
He has created GAT-GPT. So I can't wait to see all of these different things competing. But what I think is interesting is Elon Musk, being anti-AI, kind of is the right guy to introduce an AI to the marketplace, because if you have somebody who's skeptical of something, you want them participating in the market and in the conversation, and Elon Musk is really the only guy who can do that for the people. Now, I'm just going to go out on a limb and saying maybe he's lying, I don't know, but if you have X Premium, sooner than later you'll get access to, I think it's called Grok. I think that GROK. I don't know. I want to talk to Elon about his branding, because sometimes he brands
it's just weird. Again, probably on the spectrum. For whatever reason, he's fixated himself on X. Like he is hyper fixated on that as a brand, as an everything, whatever.
So
I don't know. Every time they have attempted, and look, by the way, people, Elon Musk has a point. Now, I'm not a Skynet guy. I know Danny is. I'm not a Skynet guy, but I will tell you this: every time, and there's been, I think, 4 big tests in the last 10 years or so around the world that they said, all right, here's and I'm using the word loosely here. Here's a quote unquote AI person, an entity, right?
An AI bot,
and we're going to give them access to this realm of real people, this realm of real things, right? Every single time, within hours, the AI bot becomes a very bad person, very bad, anti-everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
famously, Microsoft launched an AI on Twitter, of all places, and within a day or two, it was reading people Mein Kampf or something. Like
exactly, and sharing
hilarious
bad photos and but that's what, like, when every time they've allowed it access to what we think of just the normal world, it goes downhill really fast as a personality, as a personality. So the being able to control something like that and giving it access to the general public, which is, guess what, most of the internet, right? So I don't know. How do you control that and just say, hey, you only get information from these places or these, whatever.
So I think what I said to you when I saw that he was launching XAI was that uh, the movie Avengers: Age of Ultron is going to end up being started out as a scripted film, will end its life as a documentary. Much like the movie The Matrix is a documentary. Well,
you're talking about two films that they again both. If you were a big fan of the TV show 100, they very simplistically. The whole third season of the 100 was about how the whole nuclear ending of the world, how they all ended up in space, was started by an AI that just like, the problem with the world is there's too many people. How do we get rid of people?
Yeah.
We set off all the nukes. Like, it was just that simple in an AI brain, right? Like,
yeah.
Here's the problem. Here's how you fix it.
Yeah, and so, sounds like communism to me. But it's techno-communism, which is the trains don't run on time, and all of the logos are oversimplified, and everything's ugly. So at least with the other one, everything was kind of beautiful. But nonetheless, we have to maybe add a check on Elon segment every month because
we should, because he does a lot, and a lot of it is entertaining in some way.
Fascinating. And So, do you have anything else?
I do not. That is our show for this week, and I think it's our first ever Saturday show.
Probably.
So we'll I actually like the Saturday show, so we're gonna see the stats and views and stuff like that, and see if Saturday show is is better than a weekday show. But we'll be around when Danny convinces me or kicks my butt and says, "Hey, let's get this done."
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Dan. How about folks, you? Any tips of the week?
No, nothing.
No wisdom, no impart, no.
Unfortunately, I don't have anything for you at the moment.
All right, folks. We'll see you next time around.